The moment Ethan Harper pushed open the wrong hotel room door, his entire world tilted on its axis. There she stood, Elena Voss, the untouchable billionaire whose name alone could move markets. Half naked in the soft golden light of the penthouse suite, a cream silk blouse hung open over black lace lingerie that hugged her curves like it had been poured onto her skin. Her dark hair spilled loose over one shoulder, and the faint scent of jasmine and expensive vanilla hit him like a quiet shockwave. Ethan's grip tightened on the mop handle until his knuckles turned white. God, I'm so sorry, he choked out, already retreating. They told me 1408 was vacant for cleaning. Don't, she said, one word. Soft, almost broken. He froze mid-step, door half open behind him. Elena didn't scream. She didn't cover herself in panic. Instead, she slowly reached for the edges of her blouse. But she didn't close it, not yet. Her eyes, usually cold and calculating in every photograph he'd ever glimpsed on a newsstand, were glassy with something raw. Stay, she whispered. Just for 30 seconds, please. Ethan's heart was hammering so hard he was sure she could hear it. He was 34, broke, exhausted, raising a 6-year-old daughter alone. He had no business being in this room, but the way she looked at him, like a woman who hadn't been looked at as a person in years, rooted him to the carpet. He stayed. She finally pulled the silk together, but loosely, like she couldn't quite bear to seal herself away again. Then she sank onto the edge of the king-sized bed and let out a small, shaky laugh that had nothing to do with humor. I spend millions making sure no one ever sees me like this, she said quietly. And the first person who does is a man holding a mop. Ethan didn't know what to say. So he said the only honest thing he could. You're beautiful. The words slipped out before he could stop them. Raw, unpolished. Nothing like the rehearsed flattery she must hear every day. Elena's gaze snapped to his. For a long heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then she smiled. Not the boardroom smile. A real one. Small, tired, grateful. No one said that to me without wanting something in return. In God, I don't even remember. Ethan swallowed. I don't want anything. I know, she said softly. That's why I asked you to stay. That was how it began. Ethan Harper was not supposed to matter. He lived in a one-bedroom walk up on the edge of the city, worked graveyard security, weekend courier runs, and 5 days a week as overnight maintenance at the Grand Meridian. Every paycheck vanished into rent, Sophie's inhalers, Maya's lingering hospital debts, and the second-hand yellow rain boots Sophie had been begging for since September. Sophie, his whole reason for breathing, 6 years old, big brown eyes like her mother's, asthma that flared whenever the air turned cold, and an imagination that refused to understand why Daddy was always tired. Elena Voss was supposed to be a myth to people like him. At 38, she controlled an AI and clean energy empire worth north of 40 billion. She had been on the cover of Forbes 7 times. She slept 4 hours a night, trusted almost no one, and hadn't taken a vacation since she was 29. And yet, she started requesting him. A flickering bulb in the penthouse hallway, a stiff window latch, a malfunctioning espresso machine that worked perfectly the moment he touched it. Each time he arrived, she was dressed more casually. Soft cashmere sweaters, bare feet, no armor. Each time they talked a little longer. She told him about the night she won her first major contract and cried alone in a hotel bathroom, because there was no one to call and say, I did it. He told her about the morning he found Mia unresponsive in their bed, about promising a dying woman he would keep their daughter safe, about singing lullabies with a cracked voice until Sophie fell asleep against his chest. One Thursday night, she opened the door wearing only an oversized white button-down. His guess was one of her exes, though she never said, and nothing else. She didn't speak at first, just stepped aside. Ethan hesitated. Elena, I'm not asking for anything, she said quietly. I wanted someone to see me tonight. Not the headlines, not the stock price, just me. He stepped inside. They didn't touch that night. They sat on the sofa, 12 feet apart, a bottle of untouched wine between them. She curled her legs under her. He kept his hands clasped tight so he wouldn't do something stupid. She told him she sometimes stood naked in front of hotel mirrors and tried to remember what her body felt like before it became a brand. He admitted he hadn't looked at himself in a full-length mirror since Mia died, because he hated the hollow-eyed stranger staring back. Around 2 a.m., she whispered, "Will you hold me?" Just hold me, nothing else." He did. She crawled across the sofa and tucked herself against his chest like she was trying to disappear inside him. He wrapped both arms around her, careful, reverent. She smelled like jasmine and salt and exhaustion. Her breathing slowed. His heart raced. Neither of them slept. The next morning she slipped a plain white envelope into his hand as he was leaving. "Open it later," she said. "Not here." He waited until he was home. Sophie still asleep. Inside was a simple handwritten note, for Sophie's yellow boots. And maybe one day off for her dad. Tucked beneath the note, $15,000 in cash. He stared at it for 20 minutes, torn between gratitude and terror. He didn't want to be bought, but Sophie's shoes were literally falling apart. He spent $400 on the brightest yellow rain boots he could find, paid down 2 medical bills, and put the rest in a savings account he swore he would never touch unless it was life or death. He never told Elena he hadn't spent it all. Weeks turned into months. They never labeled what they were. Some nights she would call him up after midnight board meetings, voice raw, and he would sit on her balcony with her while she stared at the city lights and quietly fell apart. Some nights he would text her a photo of Sophie asleep with paint on her cheek, and Elena would reply with nothing but a single yellow heart emoji. They kissed for the first time in the elevator. She had been crying after a hostile takeover meeting. Mascara streaked, lips trembling. He reached out to wipe the tear from her cheek and she caught his wrist, then pulled him in. The kiss was desperate, hungry, full of years of loneliness on both sides. When the doors opened on the penthouse floor, she dragged him inside, and they didn't speak again until dawn. Clothes scattered across marble, her nails on his back, his mouth on the curve of her throat. Slow, reverent, then frantic, then slow again. Afterward she lay curled against him, tracing the scar on his forearm from the night he'd pulled Mia from the wrecked car too late. "You make me feel human," she whispered. "You are human," he answered. She laughed softly, sadly. "Not according to the world. Then the world is wrong." The first real crack came when a tabloid photographer caught them. A blurry photo. Ethan leaving the service entrance at 4 a.m., collar turned up, Elena's silhouette visible in the penthouse window above. Headline: "Dior Vasa Sisur DXL Inarlova." The internet exploded. Ethan's manager called him at 7 a.m. "You're suspended pending investigation." Sophie's school called because reporters were outside the gate asking about her daddy's rich girlfriend. Elena's board called an emergency meeting. She flew back from Singapore that night. When she opened the door, Ethan was already there, waiting in the hallway like a man about to be executed. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. "I should have had better security. I should have." "I don't care about the photo," he said. "I care that Sophie's scared. They're saying things online, about me, about you, about us." Elena's face crumpled. "I never wanted to drag you into my circus. I walked in willingly," he reminded her. She stepped closer. "Then walk out. I'll write you a check. Enough for Sophie's college, a house, everything. You can disappear. Be safe." Ethan stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, short, pained. "You really think I'd take money to leave you?" Her eyes filled. "Everyone does. Not me." He cupped her face. "I love you, Elena. Not the empire, not the private jets. You, the woman who cries at 3 a.m., the woman who can't hang a painting straight, the woman who asked a broke single dad to stay when she was standing there in lace and fear." A tear slipped down her cheeks. "I don't know how to do this," she whispered. "I don't know how to be normal. Then we'll be abnormal together." He kissed her. Slow, deep, certain. She kissed him back like a woman finally coming home. 6 months later, Elena sold 15% of her company shares, an act that sent shockwaves through Wall Street, and quietly set up a foundation for single parents facing medical debt. Ethan quit all 3 jobs. He still worked, now managing maintenance training programs for the hotel chain, but he came home every night at 6. Sophie had her own room in their new house, nothing extravagant. Just 3 bedrooms and a backyard with a yellow swing set. And every Sunday night, when Sophie was asleep, Elena and Ethan would sit on the balcony with a bottle of cheap red wine, the kind he used to buy, and talk about nothing important. Sometimes she wore his old flannel shirt and nothing else. Sometimes he pulled her into his lap, and they made love slow and quiet under the stars. Sometimes they just held each other, and listened to the city breathe. One night she rested her head on his shoulder and murmured, "I used to think power was the only thing that would keep me safe." He kissed her temple, and now I know safety is someone who sees you naked, body and soul, and stays. If this story touched you, if it reminded you that real connection can still happen in the middle of impossible lives, smash that like button, drop a heart emoji in the comments, subscribe and turn on notifications, because stories like this remind us we're all just humans trying to be seen. And maybe, just maybe, the next person who accidentally opens the wrong door might be exactly who you've been waiting for. Thank you for watching.